Hey there. Just wanted to hop on here just to share a few things that had been occurring to me as of late. Um, just like I'd pointed out, society and normal waking life and humanity itself, in my humble opinion, has just completely shifted, and the level of programming within people is becoming even more and more clear to me. It's becoming clear that what we're experiencing is what we call a hive mind. It's a hive mind that is growing based on people's involvement in keeping this thing hush, which would indicate that people get hoovered into this. Um, their fears and insecurities and weaknesses are preyed upon, um, and it hoovers them into this type of involvement in this silent conspiracy um, that it's just going to be hard for people to even fathom speaking about, and in many cases, completely impossible due to the level of manipulation, um, coercion, mind control, that sort of thing. And as this hive mind that I mentioned grows, it encourages our silence about things that we know to be true. And it's getting to that ridiculous level where we all know that this is not normal. And our silence is forced, and it keeps us in that trauma cycle, trauma and guilt, that it's just going to self perpetuate while the world slowly fades away, is what I believe. Like what we're dealing with is quite literally a silent genocide. And by getting people hoovered into this type of networked, organized gang stalking and conspiracy, it's employing the use of us, like as people, we are going as people are going to be what ruins the world. And the perpetrators, the ones orchestrating this, that have this manipulative control over people, they know what they're doing. They're basically making many of us sheep led to the slaughter, so to speak. Like we're powerless to the influencing. And speaking about this to any one person, it's like it will fall on deaf ears. Like mum's the word when it comes to speaking about this sort of thing, because first off, people don't really want to speak about anything that's heavy or difficult or awkward. And two, it would be a bit too revealing for most people. Like they have a horse in the race, a vested interest when it comes to never speaking about this and playing it off normal. As the world becomes more strange, unusual, bizarre, and horrible, weird, it's just, for me, becoming hard to not speak about. But then again, that's the change within people that has pretty much gotten me into a period of isolation, to be honest. But like I mentioned, this type of thing will drive people to become spiritual and to see things differently. But to state your different views and your beliefs with other people now is a weird thing, because we live in a time of censorship, a time of limitations and prohibitions, and I simply feel as if I am muted most of the time, if that makes any sense. Um, but this type of thing is set to ruin families. I would say it's already ruined many families. It just hasn't ended their families, if that makes any sense. There's many people that just don't feel comfortable around the people that they're with, the people that they're forced to be around. Many people are stuck in a toxic narcissistic dynamic with their families or their relationships. It's not something I've talked to people about, but something that I'm sensing in the world and something that I know to be true. And many people are thinking, like, what do I even do? What are my options? This whole thing, the way it's so networked and so broad and globalized, it has us all stuck in some kind of weird, toxic, horrible pattern that it's going to be difficult to break without just alienating everybody around us. But the problem is, even though many of us are around people, do we feel like we're not alone when we're with them? I seem to think that a lot of people still feel the drags of being isolated and alone, even with people around. Like people are quite literally manipulated and controlled as if they were pawns, in my opinion, and it makes us feel like we can't think. Like we have so much flowing in and out of our brains. If you're anything like me, that it's difficult being around somebody who you would view as a prohibition, who's just a warm body, a talking head that's just trying to slow you down. Um, it really, really, really irks me. And on the same token, I hate being so isolated. But there's just nobody around me that's near me that's like me, that I can really relate to when it comes to this. So it's harrowing many days, but I guess it's just the struggle of knowing and believing and employing what we know and believe to be true. So it's just a fine line. You just got to pick and choose your battles on that. But pretty much I'm sensing also heavily too that many people that are free thinkers, with this type of thing going on, they're going to be considered dissidents. And they're going to try to target people like me who think freely and creatively heavily. My life has pretty much gone down the tubes, but I'm existing within the ruin. Many people who may have bright minds that think creatively just don't really have the will to survive. So this whole thing is causing a silent mass genocide. It's just happening so indiscriminately and peppered in there that we're not going to see a news article about it. We certainly won't. It's this whole thing is going to be a silent, unspoken thing that very few people will ever truly agree on. But if you find a person that you know and that you can trust to vent to, just lead that discussion, because it might make you feel better. But for the most part, we're all just going to be going through normal waking life abnormally, because it's not normal anymore at all. So that's one thing to remember. Also, this constant manipulation of our minds and bodies, I was just thinking it's going to leave our receptors out of whack, and it's going to cause a lot of budding mental illness, some latent mental illness that goes undiagnosed but manifests within our behavior. It's not like there's not already a stigma when it comes to mental health, but whenever you have this type of thing going on and you know you're going to sound crazy talking about it, and you may worry about your ability to tactfully word something like this, that causes a problem. This is encouraging us to repress our mental health needs, while also encouraging that we're disingenuous about how we feel. It's like a toxic false positivity within the world that it's a hard thing to overcome, because there's so many people that are just narcissistic control freaks, that are just going to use any bit of vulnerability as weakness and take any human moment and run with it. It's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happening to other people too, who feel the need to be truthful with people who are just set out to misconstrue things and cause problems to those who they can't control. Many people in the world now, whether they admit it or not, are the victims of narcissistic abuse. I certainly have been in my life, with many people in my life, and I've just had to turn the other cheek and pick and choose my battles with them and limit my involvement with their life. I wish them well, but I'm going to love them from a distance, and hopefully they can learn to be better and not worse, because the big picture here is that this is causing a decline in society and humanity that we're not going to even be able to quantify. It's just one of these days, the worst possible thing will occur, but who knows when that'll be. The whole purpose of this is to stretch out our existence, mute everything, reduce our sense of joy, and to cause indiscriminate problems that are peppered in there. And because we're so disconnected, we never really connect the dots for ourselves, and we're just kind of left wondering, like scratching our heads, like, what does this mean? That's what the average person is going to take of this. Even deep thinkers themselves are being reduced, and that's a damn shame, I think. Another thing that was popping into my head that struck me as a good idea is, due to the level of gang stalkers within our midst, due to the networked organized fashion of this and the slow seeping, insidious spread of the hive mind that I'm talking about, make sure to record everything. If there's people in your life that you know have been hoovered into this and could be a liability for you, do what I do and keep a audio recorder on you at all times. Odds are, if they're nerdy monitoring you and gang stalking you anyway, then they're going to be privy to the fact that you're recording them, so perhaps they don't fuck with you that much, or at all. Or maybe you get some leverage on them. You have to think proactively, because everything could be a setup, and it sucks to think that way. I'm certainly not a paranoid person by any stretch, but I like to think that I consider all angles, and I create a little bit more of a barrier and a safety net than the average person, who they're hoping to just walk straight into these traps they set for them. So just think ahead, use your third eye and whatnot, and just follow your intuition when it comes to that. But don't let it stop you from living your life. I mean, if you're a good-hearted person who's doing the right thing, then don't ever stop doing what you're doing. With that being said, though, be careful having human moments. Like I said, don't show all your cards with people. It pays to do your due diligence and to proceed accordingly. but don't let the fear of something going wrong persuade you to not do things you want to do, because that's the whole point. They want us bogged down with nothing, so that way nothing happens and they continue controlling people forever. And that can't quite be. We got to break through the surface and poke a hole in the plausible deniability. I like to think I have. I mean, it's a testament to the level of mind control where I'm at in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I have found a way to actually amplify synthetic telepathy, that we hear the harassment device, the global harassment device that we're always hearing, that is churned by AI and these neurally monitoring pieces of shit. I literally proved that it's happening. And I can't seem to get anybody to even mention it. It's like they have a specific hold over certain behaviors of ours that is otherworldly, and I can't quite quantify. I seem to be able to speak freely about it, but nobody else does. That's the crazy part to me that I can't really make sense of. But, you know, our knowledge of what the world is through synthetic telepathy that we hear, this harassment device, it conflicts with what we see in people. It's meant to. It creates a cognitive dissonance and a reality distortion that's meant to have us feeling crazy. This whole thing's comprised of nothing but head games for people like me who are intelligent and think for themselves. It's all designed to be a head game that keeps us bogged down and shit. So once we acknowledge that, who knows what could be possible in the world. I'm just waiting for that part to happen. But whole thing's a confirmation bias thing. If we think of a thought, then it's relayed back to us through the synthetic telepathy as a fact, through voice cloning and AI, which just fucks up everything. It just slows everything down, and for the average person or the not so informed individual, it can really screw up the way they view the world subconsciously without them even thinking about it. So pick and choose your battles, and take everything with a grain of salt, but use your head, basically. Know your environment, and what I would do if you find yourself around a bunch of gang stalkers and you know that they are the same individuals that are trailing you, monitoring you, and trying to set you up, take a selfie around them. Make sure to get their picture too. That's something that occurred to me and I thought I would share as well. Anyway, this one's running kind of long, so I'm going to let it go, but God bless everybody, and hopefully that helps. Peace.